So, how do you tell one of your team members that they're underperforming without completely crushing their confidence? Stick with me. I'm going to go through a framework with you to try and make that conversation as structured and pain free as possible. I'm Sarah. I've worked in HR for over 20 years now. I've worked with leaders, many leaders, in navigating these type of conversations. I've also been a leader myself, so I know firsthand what it is like to actually have a discussion with somebody about this type of subject. And I completely appreciate giving advice to people is one thing, but actually doing it yourself is totally different. So let's work through a story and scenario, and then we can just put into practice how you can actually go through that conversation with somebody. So I remember it quite well. There was a leader who came to me and they said that they had a new member of staff join their team. And in the first 6 months, this person took off. They were doing so well, high potential, completely getting everything. So the leader was already thinking, okay, I can see how this person's going to be able to possibly, move up in their career quite quickly. And then, kind of like that 6 months passed, and the person just plateaued quite a bit. And then it was actually reversing. So that kind of step increase in performance that you'd expect, and the skills and knowledge gain was becoming below par for what they would actually expect at that point in time. So the leader was struggling with it and avoided having the conversation because they kept thinking, well, maybe this person will just get better. That I've seen potential from them, so I know they can do it. So I'll just kind of see what happens. And then, understandably, more time passes and the problem just escalates. So when they came to me, we just went through how can they go through that conversation with the person and try and keep those confidence levels up. So one thing I always work with is a tool which I find really useful, and then I've also got just a wider framework to build around that. So first off, it's situation, the behaviour or the issue, and then the impact that that is actually having. So if we go through that first and work out what could you actually say to somebody in this situation. So if we look at situation first, that could be a statement or two along the lines of, so when you first joined the team, in those first 6 months, your projects were consistently exceeding expectations, and that was having a really positive impact on delivery. And then if we move into the behaviour issue part of the conversation, that could look like, so more recently, I've noticed that some of your deadlines have actually slipped. So if we then look at impact, that part of the conversation could be, so this has affected the confidence I have in relying on your work, and your contribution isn't having the same impact it was previously. And that matters because I know how capable you are and I want to get you to that level where you can thrive again. So then you want to go into curious mode because being curious is your absolute superpower as a lead. No situation, most of the time, is ever what you think it is. And I've seen that happen where assumptions are made and it's led a whole situation down a path that could have been avoided. So in this scenario, who knows, this person may have a personal issue going on outside of work and they just don't want to talk about it. That could be impacting how they're turning up. Maybe they're not sleeping. There could be so many reasons why. So having that curiosity and opening it up for that person to be able to say, well, how are they feeling about it? What impact is it having on them? And is there any help they need in getting them to where they need to be? And then that makes that two-way conversation. It builds trust between the two of you, and that will set you both up in the long term. So that's the framework just to form that conversation together. And then if we look at the bigger picture model that you can follow, which helps you to prepare and reflect first in terms of the actual conversation itself. So I follow the REAL formula, so REAL, and R is for reflect. So this is a huge part of having any discussion is you need to reflect first. So in order to be prepared, then what are the facts? If you go into a conversation because you've noticed something or you're feeling like quite emotionally charged about it at that point in time, that can actually have quite a damaging effect on that conversation, because the other person will likely pick up you're not prepared, and then you're not going to be clear on your facts. So it's always reflect first, gather your thoughts, gather your facts, and then start to work out, okay, these are the key points I need to get across to this person. And then you've got E for explain. So you explain that to that person. So we've already gone through what that could look like in terms of a conversation. And it's about being calm and clear, focus on the facts, not assumptions. And then A is for ask. So it's asking them for their view. So invite them into the discussion. How do they see it? How has the past 6 months been for them? Just see if they start to feel like they can open up a bit about what's been going on. And then L is for lead. So you have opened that conversation. So it's for you to lead it forward. So once you've had the discussion and you've got a bigger picture of what's happening, then it's about, okay, well, how can you help that person move forward? Do they need an action plan? Do they need stronger objectives? What is it that they need, which is going to help them get to that level that you want them to get to? So if you've been avoiding that conversation, go in with that real formula. It's simple, it's structured, and it works. So I know every workplace is different. This isn't legal advice. This is me just giving my experience and my perspective of just navigating so many of these conversations in my career. So if you are dealing with something and you need legal advice, then understandably, refer to an employment expert. Or if you work in a company and you have a HR team, then do make sure you get support from them as well. So if you found this useful, hit subscribe. I'll be sharing more scripts, stories, scenarios that we can work through together.